The film's story begins in an Alaskan town that was situated in a region without sunlight for 30 days. Every month of the year, this occurs, and starting tomorrow, a 30-day-long night will follow. Every year, when those days arrive, most people treat them as holidays and leave. They were preparing for this reason. Now, Eben, the town's sheriff, has left with a companion to conduct an investigation. They discovered a few burned mobiles at the location, but they disregarded them, believing someone had committed a careless act, and went back to the town. The townspeople were busy enough that they didn't even know that someone is capturing the town's dogs and killing him brutally. When the driver put the oil in the truck for the generator, it started leaking from the truck and was spreading on the road. Eben stops him and charges him, but the driver doesn't like this. Meanwhile, we see a girl named Stella. She was Eben's wife, and she has to leave this town today. She was heading to the airport in her car. Meanwhile, she gets into an accident and her car collides with a crane, but luckily, Stella was saved. The condition of her car becomes worse, and she calls her husband, Eben, and asks for help from him. Eben doesn't leave for her help but sends one of his companions, and his friend reaches Stella and takes her to the airport. Now he tries to reach the airport on time, but they get late because the last plane has taken flight. Stella becomes worried because of it, and Eben goes to the dog's place for an investigation but is surprised to see them. Because someone has brutally ended them, and a man tells me this is happening here for the first time. There is none in the town who hates the dogs so much. Eben's grandmother tells there was a call from a drilling company. According to their report, they have a problem. Eben leaves after hearing this. The pilot tells him my helicopter was parked in the garage for a long time. But today someone has broken its spare parts, didn't leave it able to take flight, and I don't understand who has done this. There was an unknown ship that arrived in this town, and we see a stranger who is sitting in a bar and asking for beer. The lady who works there refuses him, saying, "Sorry, I can't serve you a beer because none is allowed to drink those days. Because it is injurious to health," but then he demands raw meat and holds that lady's hand. He was weird. Meanwhile, Eben arrives and suspects this man. That's why he was arrested. Now we see an old man who hears voices from outside and goes to check with a torch. But there were weird people who suddenly attacked this old man and started sucking his blood. They suck his blood, due to which he dies. On the other side, 3 factory workers were leaving home. Suddenly, there was an attack on them, and the terrible creatures in human form sucked the blood of 2 of them. After it, they drag them into the dark, and the worker girl somehow escapes from there. Eben investigates the stranger, but he doesn't answer anything clearly and says the people here are going to die. Suddenly, the lights go out, due to which they lose their telephone connection, through which they could talk to anyone. Eben comes out, and he sees the blood that has fallen on the road. And when he chases it, he gets surprised because it was the head of the old man. He immediately goes to the people staying there and advises them to stay in their houses. It would be better, and don't think about coming out because it will be dangerous. If there is no generator at anyone's house, move to the bar and stay there because there is a generator there. Now they were playing a game in the police station to pass the time, while the stranger tried to scare them. Eben's brother comes in anger, so he throws a small plastic thing at him, but the stranger says, "What have you done? But you did a good job, and I will break this jail with the help of this plastic." Hearing this, Eben's brother runs to pick up the plastic, but the stranger holds him by his neck, and seeing this, Stella picks up the gun. She threatens him to leave, but he ignores her. Meanwhile, Eben arrives and shoots at that stranger's shoulder. Later, he ties him up with the rods with the help of the handcuffs, but the man was talking weirdly and says you all are going to die. Because they have come here and the death game is about to begin, there will be bloodletting. There was fear in the town as the blood-sucking creatures, called vampires, were there. They feel there is a killer who will now end everyone, which is why they leave in the car to capture that killer. They feel strange, so they come out of the car and try to see with the binoculars. Stella sees something, panics, and asks Eben if we should leave. And they immediately sit in the car and return to the town, but a vampire attacks their car and gets on it. Eben fires the bullet, but it doesn't affect the vampire, so Stella applies the brakes hard and he falls down. With this, they finally get rid of that vampire. As they reached the town, the situation was at its worst. The cars were burning, and there were dead bodies everywhere because the vampires attacked this place. Eben's grandmother tries to contact them from the police station. But when they reached it, there wasn't a grandmother or Eben's brother. There was blood everywhere, and they felt bad seeing this, but the stranger was still there, tied in the same position. Eben moves to end him with a gun because he was saying the same thing, "I helped them and made their way." Here, he was talking about the vampires, but Stella stops Eben, saying don't end him. It is useless. He stops, and now we see the vampires along with their leader outside, who were attacking secretly. But now their leader says attack as you want without getting scared of anyone because now there is none to stop us. Do remember one thing. Separate their heads after killing all of them. So they will not change into vampires, and we shouldn't increase in numbers. Saying this, they attacked the townspeople. Like this, when the massacre started, they were ending them brutally even though the people had guns for their protection. But the bullets weren't affecting them. Eben and Stella move inside a bar, where they meet Eben's brother, who was saved. And they were happy to meet each other. The worker girl tells me there is a small cabin near my neighbor's house. We should go there because it is the safest place for us and isn't far from here, but Eben says we can't leave without any plan. Stella, and I will divert the attention of those vampires until then you will get a chance to run from there. According to the plan, Eben and Stella leave in the car, but the vampires were so clever that they immediately came to them to attack. They were so powerful that they picked up the car with their hands and also tried to kill them while getting inside. They were escaping barely, and Stella successfully ends one of them only when she blows his head off with a bullet. She was stuck, and the driver came to help them. He had a big car that he hit with the vampires. Due to this, the vampires get crushed under it, and the driver makes them sit in the car and saves them. Later, when they all reach the cabin about which the girl told them, they plan to arrange the food and everyone will turn wise. The vampire's leader and his companion reach the stranger at the police station. Actually, he made a deal with a vampire. That if he will help him, he will make him a vampire, after which he will become immortal and never die. Now that the wrong things have happened from the start, the dog's deaths and the power cut were done by this stranger. So that vampires will get into this town. He had done his job, but the vampires deceived him. They didn't make him a vampire, they ended him and also sucked his blood. Time passes, and we are shown the story 6 days later. The vampires found people in even houses and buildings and used to suck their blood. This was going on. There were only a few people who were saved, and there were others who were hiding in the cabin. The pilot's father among them has lost his mental balance because he lost his wife recently. Often he used to weep while remembering her, but they asked him to stay silent because they didn't want any noise here. And the vampires come here, hearing the noise, and capture them. Well, now they hear noise from outside, and Stella sees there were vampires who were searching the nearby houses. Few of them say, seeing this condition, that we should hide somewhere else while leaving this place. But Eben should make them understand that we can't leave this place. We will get a chance when there is a storm. The girl who was alone comes out panicked. She was scared and starts shouting loudly for help. Her voice was heard by the people hiding in the cabin, and Eben sees many vampires coming to end her. Eben and a man came out to save the girl, but it was too late because the vampires surrounded her. They end her and suck her blood. Not only this, but the man who came out with Eben was also bitten by a vampire. He also changes into a vampire and attacks Eben, even though he doesn't want to. To escape, he has to kill him. Eben was panicked as he was an asthma patient, but until he returned to the cabin, he got an asthma attack. That's why he falls there, but Stella helps him a lot. When the vampire's leader comes to the dead body of Eben's friend, and gets shocked to see him because he understands there are still few humans who are saved. They are hiding while escaping from us. Now it was Stella's turn to guard the cabin, but she sleeps. Now getting a chance, the pilot's father tries to escape, but his son sees him. Meanwhile, Stella also awakes, and they stop him while trying to make him understand. He agrees. But he has to go to the washroom. He goes to the washroom, and outside, Stella and the pilot were waiting for him to come out. When he didn't come out for a long time, they moved inside while breaking the door and saw that he escaped through the window. The pilot also moves to find his father, but hearing the noise, a vampire secretly moves inside the cabin. Seeing him, Eben and Stella hide in a place silently, but the pilot comes out and starts calling his father. The vampire who has come inside the house comes out while hearing the voice and ends the pilot while attacking him. Eben blames himself for all this. I didn't help them, but Stella makes him understand, don't do this. It isn't your mistake. Now there was a snowstorm, and they didn't see any vampires outside, so they came out and moved somewhere. As they also ran out of groceries, their plan was to move to the supermarket, from where they would take food items. Later, they will go to the drilling company because they will spend the rest of the dark days there. They somehow reach the supermarket, where there are a lot of food items, but a vampire girl attacks them. But they end her, and this was done by Eben's brother, but he becomes sad after this because he didn't want to do it. It was necessary to do. Now they have the food, but they can't go out because the storm has subsided. They have to wait for the storm to come or the end of those dark days, now that 18 days have passed. But to live here isn't less dangerous than any other place because the vampires were checking all buildings. Now they plan to go to the police station, and they also have to divert their attention. Eben tells everyone that vampires don't come into the sunlight, and my grandmother used to grow plants in UV lights. Those are actually the sun rays, so I can kill them if I take them to that house that has UV lights. According to the plan, Eben diverts the vampires' attention, and they run to the police station. Later, he ends the vampire's companion girl with the UV lights, but they were clever and cut the connection to the UV lights. Eben contacts everyone with a walkie-talkie and says, I am stuck here in the trouble, but you all save yourselves. Hearing this, the driver again moves with the crane to save Eben, and also crushes many vampires. In the end, he makes a blast, but he was caught by the leader, and they also end him. Eben reaches the police station safely, but the worker says, I have to hide something from you. I was bitten by the girl in the supermarket, and now I will change into a vampire. So now, Eben, you end me so that I will not be a danger to anyone. Eben doesn't want to do this. But to save everyone, he takes him to the other room and ends him. They get panicked hearing the bullet's voice. Now that 27 days have passed and they somehow kept themselves alive, the next day they see a light on in a house. If Eben and Stella decide to go there, maybe someone will be there who needs help. Reaching there, they find Eben's companion, who ended his family's life to save them from the terrible death given by vampires. He now wants to end himself, but Eben stops him. There is a storm outside, so they leave, and were moving to the drilling company, but then they heard noise and fled to a place immediately. Meanwhile, a girl comes out, and Stella wants to save her, but a vampire sees them. Eben asks his friend to take his wife and that girl, and he comes in front of the vampire to save them. His companion moves inside the factory, leaving Stella and that girl there. Eben returns and somehow reaches the drilling company with others. Eben feels bad when he doesn't find Stella and the girl. His companion also reaches them, but a vampire who was chasing him attacks them. Eben fights with him, but his companion holds the vampire and throws him in the grinder machine, with which his body divides into parts, but until then the vampire has bitten him. Before he could change into a vampire, Eben ended him with an axe. The vampires were wandering outside, and it had been 30 days. After it, morning will appear. Eben and Stella talks on walkie-talkie and she tells that I am hiding under a car with the girl. Now, for a short time, they have to escape somehow, but the vampires set that place on fire, so that if humans are hiding there, they will come out. Stella was stuck. If she will not come out, she will be ended being burnt. But if she comes out, she will not be spared from the vampires. Eben has to escape them, so he injects the blood of his vampire companion. Here, he was going to sacrifice his life to save his wife. He says goodbye to his brother and moves out to save Stella. He only challenges the vampire's leader to fight, and as he comes forward, Eben starts beating him a lot. He was hitting him hard because they don't know that Eben is also a vampire, and has so much power that he ends the vampire's leader at once. The sun was rising, which is why the left-handed vampires ran from there, and Stella and that girl were also saved. Eben and Stella promised to see the sunrise together, so that's why they sit at a place and watch the sunrise. As the sun rises, Eben turns to ashes, and Stella is weeping while hugging him. He flies while turning into ashes, and it was a depressing scene because Stella was weeping a lot while losing her husband. This is the sad ending of the movie. Thanks for watching.